Hey everybody, it's Laura and Paula at Kismet. Say hi, Paula.
Hi, everybody.
And we are here with the Cardology 101 series. We also are calling this the Kismet 101 series. The very first introductory video, which is an introduction to the Destiny card system, also known as Cardology. So we're going to basically give you the background of what this system is all about. When you think of cardology, it's astrology and numerology kind of put together. Okay, Paula, so why don't you tell us about how the system of cardology or the Destiny card system came to be?
Okay, it seems that most cultures claim to have some original card system, and it's ancient beyond any of their history. And in the introduction to what Olney Richmond wrote, a book called The Mystic Test Book, or The Science of the Cards. He wrote this back in the late 1800s, and he says that the history of this goes all the way back to Atlantis and probably before. So there's a possibility that this was channeled to us or given to us by a higher race or an off-world race. So the origins of it are very ancient, but it's more how we can trace it showing up through history. We can see it showing up in Masonic religions, alchemical religions, the Kabbalah, Egypt, and of course there is a lot of tie over with the Tarot.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into some of that like symbology that's kind of connected between all of those different backgrounds and all those different religions and things. But let's jump into what the Bible, or what Olney Richmond, at least what he thinks the Bible says about the cards.
Okay, so there's a verse in Revelation that talks about the little book and how the angel came and gave the little book to this guy and gave him the instruction to eat it. And when he consumed it, it was at first sweet and then it became bitter. And this, he claims that that is a direct reference to the cards. And what that seems to mean, at least in my experience, is that there's a sweetness to it. There's a curiosity, there's a harmony. It fits, it's exciting, interesting. But then when you really get the bite or the sting, it's actually because it's nailing you. So the reason that it tastes bitter is because the card system has a way of really dialing down into your issues, your dysfunctions, and it is a very clear reflection to you of yourself, which is not always a sweet experience.
Yeah, it's like when you start really diving into your own inner workings, it's challenging to work on yourself. And that's what the system is all about, is you taking responsibility for who you are and how you interact with the world. And the system just helps you look at that, and it helps you understand what you're doing here, the purpose of your relationships, and it helps you reflect on becoming a better person. So it's, in my mind, like the ultimate self-growth tool.
Yes, it is.
So tell us about the card system right now, what's going on currently.
Okay, so Robert Camp published Love Cards and then later Destiny Cards about 25 years ago, and there have been some publications since then. There was also a major publication right around 1950 where a couple of women who were in the Secret Order of the Magi had master's degrees, and they wrote a fantastic book similar to Robert Camp's book that has a full layout of each one of the cards. So Florence Campbell and Edith Randall published a book called
Sacred Symbols of the Ancients.
That's right. So anyway, it's just really beginning to grow and develop and gain readership, and people like me who have studied it for about the last 20 years. You're not going to find many people who have studied it longer than 20 years. There's probably one or two that I know of, but it is really beginning to move into the mainstream at this point because of its stunning accuracy.
Yeah, and that's what our goal here at Kismet really is so that this could be a conversation you're having around the table, and you're saying to your best friend, you're like, you're acting like such a diamond right now. So, or whatever. I hear myself saying club things all the time because I'm a club through and through. And I just catch myself constantly being a club. But it's really fun when you start to understand the language behind it and the symbology behind it.
Oh, I do too. And it's such an opportunity to laugh at yourself and see yourself through a filter and begin to become the observer of yourself and challenge yourself to expand and relax a little bit, and also to gain a sense of humor and acceptance around, okay, this is my card. As Robert Camp says, try to not be your card. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, and that's how we wrote those, well, how Paula wrote those reports that we have on our website. We hope that there's some humor in there for you, that you can look at yourself and laugh at some of the tendencies that you have. So we're going to dive into some of the symbols and the math behind the cards. And the first thing here is the two colors, the yin and yang idea of the black and red of the cards. And these two colors symbolize night and day, and the whole idea of the concept of yin and yang, which are masculine versus feminine, but those two energies together make up everything, and everything is some sort of balance between those two energies. And that could be a whole nother video, but we're not going to dive any deeper into that. So Paula, why don't you tell us about the seasons and the suits?
Okay, so yeah, obviously we have 4 suits, we have 4 seasons, and there is also an element that goes with each one of these. And those of you who follow the tarot, I'll use some of that language. So the hearts represent the cups, or spring, or water, and the clubs represent summer or swords, and air is the element. So the diamonds represent fire and the season of the fall, and also pentacles in the tarot. And the spades represent the period of winter, or I think the element of earth. There's some question about that, but I also believe that the spades represent carbon, as they are a combination of the other suits.
Yeah, and then we have the moon cycles over there. So the idea here is that there are 13 moon cycles per year, and then there are 13 cards for each suit. So those two numbers line up together. And then we'll get into the calendar and how this kind of mathematically adds up. So if you see that there's clearly 12 months in a year, there are also 12 quark cards. There are 4 jacks, 4 queens, 4 kings. And then we also have 52 weeks per year and 52 total cards. So Paula's going to explain to us how all this adds up mathematically to create the number of days of the year.
Yeah, so there are 52 weeks in the year times 7 days. So we have 364 days in the year. And if you add up the numeric values of all of the cards, with Jack, Queen, and King being worth 11, 12, and 13, you come to the grand total of 364. And then the Joker is worth 1 1/4, because he is said to represent all suits plus himself, which brings us to the grand total of the 365.25 solar days in a year.
Yeah, and then we're just going to go and look at a little bit more symbology in the cards themselves. So you can see here that we have pretty traditional cards that we've designed for Kismet. And when I was looking at doing this, I was like, let's make them really cool. And I found all these awesome designs on the internet. And I took them to Paula, and she was like, Laura, no. And Paula, tell me why you said no. We can't do amazing, cool, like designs that aren't very traditional.
Because there is actually a lot of sacred symbology in the traditional cards as they appear. And this is another thing I'm just taking directly from Robert Camp, where he says that when cards are used that have compromised the design somehow, they're just not as powerful, they're not as accurate, they're not as effective. So as I've studied the cards, I've discovered that there's a lot of sacred geometry going on. And at one point, I'll go into this later about how it was kind of revealed to me, this giant geometric shape that explains the positions of all the pips. But yeah, we'll get into a little bit of the placement of the pips on the cards and some of the reasons for those, some of the teachings that come from the positions of the pips. So just to start out with the difference between odd and even cards have an empty spot in the middle of the card, with the exception of the 7. The 7 has both an empty spot and a pip. So the odd cards have a pip in the center, which represents the presence of themselves. They tend to be more focused on their own development, their own internality. They tend to be more intuitive versus sensate or connected to their physical senses. Whereas the even cards, they have an empty spot in the middle. So they're more focused on the container, and they are more pragmatic. They're more attuned to the physical world. So if we take a couple of cards themselves, the 6 is where I first noticed this. The 6 has 2 rows of 3 pips, and the 6 is about karma and destiny and fate. So the train track is like a plan. There's a very simple, clear plan of where to go. Whereas the 7, you're walking down this path, and then there's an obstacle. And therefore 7s are all about dealing with the internal obstacle. And what I've found is that they have to go vertical to move forward. They have to adopt a higher vibration to get past whatever the obstacle they have, which is usually attachment. And then the face cards. Let's look at the King of Diamonds. We see that he has one eye, and so it's very typical for the King of Diamonds person to have a blind spot. See the axe behind his head. There can be something coming at him from behind that he doesn't see. So there's a little bit of symbolism in there that resonates with the King of Diamonds people that I know. And then the King of Hearts, this is one that I've just kind of figured out for myself. The sword represents the mind, or the suit of the clubs, and we can see he's got a sword going through his head, and that's because he's focused on the heart. The King of Hearts heart says, I'm going to cancel out my head and I'm going to focus on my heart.
Yeah, that's so cool. So another important thing to understand about the cards is that they are actually laid out in spreads. And we're looking at two of them, but I understand that there are 45 altogether. And these are the two main ones that we want to take a peek at. But Paula, tell us about the grand solar spread and then these two spreads that we're looking at.
Okay, so the grand solar spread is basically both of these spreads, and there's one in which they're all in order, and this is called the natural spread, as in this is the true nature of the cards. These are their quote unquote correct positions, and there are teachings behind these positions that they hold. They are at an intersection of two planets. We also call this the spiritual spread, and the other spread we call mundane or life spread, and this is kind of like, okay, this is the matrix. This is Earth. This is life on Earth. This represents the values that we have here. This is kind of boots on the ground. So we learn a lot about the contrast between these two spreads, and the relationship of two cards to each other is discovered and understood by the different positions in each of the spreads. I know that's kind of hard to understand. It's
Yeah,
kind of
so it took me a little while to understand this, but basically everything that your card is all about, it comes down to the suit that you are and then the number that you are. Those two things have their own inherent qualities, numerology with the numbers, the suit having its own kind of personality, and then everything else is coming from these spreads. So all of your relationship connections come from the spreads. The hand that you were dealt comes from these spreads. And more things about what your card is like comes from, for example, the planetary intersection of the two planets. Like if you're looking at the Four of Clubs, almost right in the center of the mundane spread, we've got Mars and Jupiter.
And something else really general I'd like to point out is that heart people, we describe them as being relational and connective, and you can see that they occupy the Mercury and the Venus line over in the natural spread. Clubs tend to be pragmatic, and so we see them occupying Mars and Jupiter, which are both very pragmatic. Diamonds are serious, there's Saturn, and spades tend to be integrated. At the very bottom of the spread, we see Neptune that pulls it all together, and then they take up the crown line, which has the big perspective. Therefore, spades tend to have a big perspective. So no matter where your card is sitting over in the mundane spread, you're going to have characteristics based on the natural spread as well.
Yeah, so this can get really complicated really fast, but we just wanted to give you an overview. And we are planning on putting together online courses to teach this in much greater detail if it's something you're interested in. So we've already kind of alluded to the three main areas that cardology can break down for you. So we have the personality, who you are, and the life purpose that you are here to play out. And then you have your relationships, which we are calling the cosmic connection. So you have actual energy between you and another person based on the cards. And then time, which is what are you dealing with during this certain period of your life. Okay, so we're going to dive into the personality stuff, the personal aspects to these cards. So Paula, tell us about the birth card, the hand, and the planetary ruling card.
Okay, so your birth card is derived from your birthday. Each day of the year is designated by a card, and that's your main descriptor. It's like your long range card for your whole life, describes you and what you're about. And then the hand that you're dealt are a series of cards around your birth card, and your hand will describe more about your life path, more subtle aspects of your personality. What are you like in relationship? What is your career about, etc. The planetary ruler is a card in your hand based on your sun sign, and it's the second most important card for you that describes you. So when you're looking up your birth card and reading that report or buying your kit, you're going to want to look at the planetary ruler as well. It's some people identify more with their planetary ruler than with their birth card, so it's very important to study.
Yeah, so the way you get all of these things is you can get the birth card, and then when you're on that page, you're on your one-stop shop. And within that one-stop shop, you'll find a link to get your planetary ruling card report, which is basically just like your birth card report, except it's for the card that's your planetary ruler. And then to find out more about your hand, you get the kit, and we help you analyze your hand and give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. So check all that out on your one-stop shop on our website. And then we're going to go into relationships. So on the website, that's a slightly separate section. When you go to the very first page, it is kismet.com. You'll see where you can put your birthday in, and then you'll see where you can put two birthdays in. When you put two birthdays in, it's you and another person, which means it's a relationship. So then that's the cosmic connection section. So Paula, tell us what cosmic connections are.
Okay, I'm going to use some personal examples because this is so much fun. The cosmic connections help you understand the nature of your relationship and actually the purpose of your relationship with another person. So for example, the relationship that I had just previous to the one that I'm in now, which is a Venus connection, and it's very easy. It was very challenging. I was with a 6 of clubs. I am the 7 of diamonds, and he is a card in my hand that actually represents an extreme level of challenge, like someone that's going to get in your face and say, these are your main issues, you need to grow up. And
You just
so
you just learned all that and then we started working together.
that just occurred to me
Because I'm a
because
6 of clubs.
Laura's the 6 of clubs, and I thought that must be why it's so easy to connect with her, is because I got the lesson and
Good
I do it.
job. Yay, you.
Thank you very much. It was really hard. It was a crash course in developing my career energies in particular. This is what he was most in my face about. So, and here we are. Laura and I are launching career objectives together. Whereas the relationship that I have now, who I believe to be my twin flame, we have a twin flame connection. There is such a thing in the card system, and we'll explain that more in detail later. They're really rare, but we have one of those, as well as a Venus connection, which is all about just love and enjoying time together. And for the longest time, Laura and I, we couldn't figure out what the downside of the Venus connection was, because it's just so easy and pleasant and you're always happy. And it turns out that laziness is probably the biggest problem with it. If there's no friction there, there's nothing to get you moving, there's nothing to make you uncomfortable or even motivated. That's an example of two very different kind of cosmic connections. And there is a great level of complexity that the card system offers in terms of explaining to you what your connection with this person is going to be like. And some pairs of cards have up to 7 connections, and others have like 1 or 2 major connections. And we've picked out 2. We've picked out the major 2 connections for every pair in a deck of 52, which comes to a grand total of what, Laura?
Like 1,300. We worked really hard on this. So when you get on our website, you can check as many connections as you want to. So there is a report that goes along with these. So like if you have a Venus and let's say Neptune energy, your report includes a whole bunch of information on Venus, a whole bunch of information on Neptune, and then a whole bunch of information on what Venus and Neptune are together, because blending them together is what really makes you understand what your relationship is all about. So our final thing that we're going to go through here is the Cardology system used as a predictive tool. So Paula, tell us about how we can use this yearly and then during these various planetary periods.
Okay, so if you get Robert Camp's Destiny Cards book and you flip this thing open and you see your page, say you're the 3 of Hearts and you're looking at 100 years of your life, it looks like the Matrix. There are just tons of little symbols. And basically what is happening is that every year of your life is broken down into about 7 yearly cards that help you understand the purpose of that year of your life. And then there are about, 10 more cards, 2 cards of influence for every 52-day period. So let me explain that. Your year is divided into 7 periods that last 52 days each, and there are 2 cards of influence for each one of those periods. And so Laura and I are trained in looking at those cards and helping you understand the depth and complexity of what that period of your year is about. And so the system is predictive. You can go to any period of time in your life and see when it's more likely that you're going to have a move or a change or an ending, what periods are going to be easy, what are going to be more difficult. Yes, we have learned volumes about how this works by studying our own lives and the lives of our many wonderful clients who have served as educational forums.
Yeah. And I think it's just really nice for me. I mean, I always get a yearly reading from Paula around my birthday, but
Yeah, and usually what happens is something happens that makes you uncomfortable. Like I
yeah.
had a bunch of anger come up a couple weeks ago and I was like, what is this about? What is my card? So no, I don't look at what's up for me every 52 days. But I look when I'm uncomfortable and I need to answer a
Yeah.
question. So the card that I had helped to explain, oh, this is the issue that's coming up. This is why these people are coming into your life. This is why you're being activated in this way. These are your lessons. That's why these things are showing up. So yeah, the card
Yeah.
system has overhauled how I look at my life, how I look at challenge and difficulty. There's a purpose to it.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I started doing these readings for people, they would come in and nobody's coming in to get a reading where they're like, everything's totally fine, man. Something is a shit show in their life and they need to know why. So that's exactly right, Paula. You're only looking at the cards when something is not going so great in your life. So just keep that in mind. If you're having a problem of some kind, Paula and I can probably look at the cards and help you figure out what it is you're supposed to be learning from it. Because as soon as you learn from it, you just move right on from whatever that issue is.
Right. Yeah. And the other good piece of news is that whatever you're going through right now is a 52-day period,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to change. And yeah, there is an exact day every year that you shift out of your Saturn period, for example, and things generally really lighten up for people.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So now we are going to just finish up by telling you what to do next. If you go to our website, it is kismet.com, you'll put your birthday in and end up on your one-stop shop. And as we mentioned before, you can get your kit. The kit has a ton of stuff. There's actually a video if you want to get more details about it. You can click on that little link on your page and you'll get a whole list of all the things going on in the kit. But that includes your karma cards. It includes your past life cards, which we talk about both of those things in another video. It includes an interactive player's guide where you have questions that you need to reflect on maybe for your card, and where you can cut little words out, paste them on the mirror on a vision board that are related to your card. It's got the way we teach you how to analyze your own hand. That's all in that kit. Plus there's a whole section on royal archetypes. That's another video because it's a nice, interesting topic to get into. And then you'll also find your planetary ruling card on that one-stop shop. And then back to the front page of our website, it is kismet.com. Again, if you scroll down, you can get your Cosmic Connections report by putting in 2 birthdays, but you don't just have to get the report. You can actually get the connections for free for as many people as you want to. And you can get readings with Paula and I, which is sitting in the menu. And that wraps up this show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Feel free to check out the rest of the episodes in Cardology 101 to learn more about the Destiny card system. Jump over to our channel, Dear Kismet, where we are doing a weekly show that answers your questions about life issues, and we'll be talking about celebrities and world events. You can also jump over to our website. It is kismet.com to learn more about the cards you were dealt and get some goodies to help you explore and do your own internal work. We'd love for Cardology to become as embedded in the collective consciousness as astrology and numerology are. So share with your friends and family. We are on Instagram, Kismet Cards, and Facebook, it is Kismet. And just a reminder from all of us at Kismet, do your work.